the discovery of Pluto, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, Pluto, and it's the depth of the human psyche, that the id, the Freudian instincts, that is, you know, the Plutonic archetype represents. And that was an essential piece for us to discover in order to recognize that dimension within us, and at least to see it in a symbolic form in the cosmos.
Yeah. What year was Pluto discovered exactly?
1930,
1930.
like right in between World War I and World War II, and at the Great Depression, but also like in the midst of the depth psychological revolution. Jung's synchronicity, he first mentions it in 1928, quantum physics, and
It's like the Plutonic archetype, also everything that's been repressed.
exactly.
The body, the feminine, evil in some sense. Yeah, how Jung's problem of the fourth is connected to the Plutonic archetype and the importance of reintegrating what's been repressed and oppressed and denied. And
Yeah.
we say Pluto was discovered in the 30s, but more recently, what was it, like 2014 or something? It was demoted and not even considered a planet
Right.
anymore. And
Right. Yeah.
something poetic in that, a
Mhm.
bit hubristic on humanity's part as well.
Pluto is, so much of what is repressed and unconscious, but every archetype has an unconscious dimension, or at least they're all in the unconscious, right? In the archetypal unconscious. And looking at one's birth chart can help you see your own unconscious dimensions. Like you can come to know them. I mean, and I think like Jung's understanding of them as autonomous, as beings, as living gods and goddesses. There's always a deeper dimension that's hidden, that's part of the unconscious. We'll never exhaust our understanding of them. But the image in the birth chart is both, it can be very helpful in seeing where our unconscious in our consciousness is working. And I don't think there's any place in the future that the unconscious will not be even larger than however far our consciousness evolves.
So rather than trying to master the world or gain control over the unconscious or something, it's about coming into relationship
Exactly.
with a mystery. It's a spiritual path that invites us to a renewed intimacy with the cosmos and with ourselves.
Yeah. And the more awareness and study and practice we engage with the archetypes within ourselves and within the world, the less unconscious we are of them. And the more our agency, our will, our thinking, feeling, willing can actually enact and co-creatively enact and participate with them in more conscious ways rather than unconscious expressions, or being, even ultimately the real shadow form is being fully possessed by the shadow dimension of archetypes, which you also see in tragic figures in history.
Pluto is about not just repression and oppression, but possession too, right?
That's right. Yeah. You can be possessed by any archetype.
Right.
Yeah. They all have shadow. And it provides the opportunity to really cultivate a depth of compassion for one another, because we're all in it together.
Beneath the same sky, right? Subject to the same weather.
The same archetypal complex is ultimately arranged in different forms.
Yeah. Same cosmic history.
I mean, just to give a simple example, like when the Saturn-Pluto alignments happen, there's more of a tendency for psychological splitting and othering. The Saturn boundaries come in, and the good's on the inside, projecting the Plutonic evil, the repressed, the shadow onto the other. But knowing that they're in alignment at any given time and seeing it in the collective psyche, it affords you the capacity to not fall into and be possessed by that type of thinking. So it does seem to me that it's perhaps a new level of awareness that can be brought into being, but it will take a lot of attention, like you're saying, and cultivating that awareness, and a lot of will, ultimately, like Steiner's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I find myself thinking about the myth of Pluto.
Pluto is really interesting. Pluto gets a bad rap because it's associated with the id and whatnot, but Pluto is also, I would say fundamentally what Pluto is, it's the archetype of separation. It's in polar opposition to Neptune. Neptune is the archetype of primordial oneness. It is the abyssal ocean. It is the womb. It is the undifferentiated state prior to birth. Pluto is the sense of division between self and world, and so that's why Pluto, out of that plutonic separation emerges the anxiety and paranoia, which are associated with Pluto, but also the libidinality associated with Pluto, which you can think of as a kind of a will to return to that Neptunian state. And also the regenerative powers of the body, because that anxiety also becomes a will to survive, to persevere,